John Harlow, born Harleen Harlow Carpenter, March 3, 1911 – June 7, 1937, was an American film actress and sex symbol of the 1930s. After being signed by director Howard Hughes, Harlow's first major appearance was in Hell's Angels, 1930, followed by a series of critically unsuccessful films before signing with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer in 1932. Harlow became a leading lady for MGM, starring in a string of hit films including Red Dust, 1932, Dinner at 8, 1933, Reckless, 1935, and Susie, 1936. Among her frequent co-stars were William Powell, Spencer Tracy, and in 6 films, Clark Gable. Harlow's popularity rivaled and soon surpassed that of her MGM colleagues Joan Crawford and Norma Shearer. She had become one of the biggest movie stars in the world by the late 1930s, often nicknamed the Blonde Bombshell and the Platinum Blonde, and popular for her laughing vamp movie persona. She died during the filming of Saratoga in 1937 at the age of 26. The film was completed using doubles and released a little over a month after Harlow's death. The American Film Institute ranked her as the 22nd greatest female star of classic Hollywood cinema. Childhood. Harlow was born Harleen Harlow Carpenter in Kansas City, Missouri. The name is sometimes incorrectly spelled Carpentier, following later studio press releases. Her father, Montclair Carpenter, 1877 to 1974, was a dentist from a working-class background who attended dental college in Kansas City. Her mother, John Poe Carpenter, née Harlow, was the daughter of a wealthy real estate broker, Skip Harlow, and his wife, Ella Harlow, née Williams. The marriage was arranged by Skip Harlow in 1908, and John, an intelligent and strong-willed woman, was resentful and became very unhappy in the marriage. The couple lived in Kansas City in a house owned by Skip Harlow. Harleen was nicknamed the Baby, a name that would stick with her for the rest of her life. She did not learn that her name was actually Harleen until the age of 5, when she began to attend Miss Barstow's finishing school for girls in Kansas City. Harleen and Mother Jean, as she became known when Harleen became a film star, remained very close as the relationship eased Mother Jean's empty existence and unhappy marriage. Harleen's mother was extremely protective and coddling, instilling a sense that her daughter owed everything she had to her. She was always all mine, she said of her daughter. When her daughter was at school, Mother Jean became increasingly frustrated and filed for a divorce that was finalized, uncontested, on September 29, 1922. She was granted sole custody of Harleen, who loved her father, but would rarely see him again. Mother Jean moved with Harleen to Hollywood in 1923 with hopes of becoming an actress, but was too old at 34 to begin a film career. Major roles were usually assigned to teenage girls. Harleen attended the Hollywood School for Girls and met Douglas Fairbanks, Jr., Joel McCrea, and Irene Mayer Selznick. Harleen dropped out of school in the spring of 1925 when, finances dwindling, her mother and she moved back to Kansas City after Skip Harlow issued an ultimatum that he would disinherit his daughter if she did not return. Several weeks later, Skip sent Baby to a summer camp called Camp Chautauqua in Michigan, where Harleen became ill with scarlet fever. Mother Jean traveled to Michigan to care for her, rowing herself across the lake to the camp, but was told that she could not see her daughter. Career 1927 to 29, marriage and beginnings. Harlow next attended the Ferry Hall School, now Lake Forest Academy, in Lake Forest, Illinois. Her mother had an ulterior motive for Harleen's attendance there, as it was close to the Chicago home of her boyfriend, Marino Bello. Each freshman was paired with a big sister from the senior class, and Harleen's big sister introduced her to 19-year-old Charles Chuck McGrew, heir to a large fortune, in the fall of 1926. Soon the two began to date, and then married. On January 18, 1927, John Carpenter also married her partner Bello, although Harleen was not present. Shortly after the wedding, the couple left Chicago and moved to Beverly Hills. McGrew turned 21 2 months after the marriage and received part of his large inheritance. The couple moved to Los Angeles in 1928, settling into a home in Beverly Hills, where Harleen thrived as a wealthy socialite. McGrew hoped to distance Harleen from her mother with the move. Neither McGrew nor Harleen worked, and both, especially McGrew, were thought to drink heavily. The couple divorced in 1929. In Los Angeles, Harleen befriended Rosalie Roy, a young aspiring actress. Lacking a car, Roy asked Harleen to drive her to Fox Studios for an appointment. Reputedly, Harleen was noticed and approached by Fox executives while waiting for her friend, but stated that she was not interested. Nevertheless, she was given dictated letters of introduction to Central Casting. A few days later, Rosalie Roy bet Harleen that she did not have the nerve to to go and audition. Unwilling to lose a wager and pressed by her enthusiastic mother, Harleen drove to Central Casting and signed in under her mother's maiden name, Jean Harlow. After several calls from Central Casting and a number of rejected job offers, Harleen was pressed into accepting work by her mother, now back in Los Angeles. She appeared in her first film, Honor Bound, as an unbilled extra for $7 a day. This led to small parts in feature films such as Moran of the Marines, 1928, This Thing Called Love, 1929, Close Harmony, 1929, and The Love Parade, 1929, among others. In December 1928, she signed a 5-year contract with Hal Roach Studios for $100 per week. She had a co-starring role in Laurel and Hardy's short Double Whoopee in 1929, and went on to appear in 2 more of their films, Liberty and Bacon Grabbers, both 1929. In March 1929, however, she parted with Roach, who tore up her contract after Harlow told him, "It's breaking up my marriage, what can I do?" In June 1929, Harlow separated from her husband and moved in with her mother and Bello. After her separation from McGrew, Harlow worked as an extra in several movies. She landed her first speaking role in 1929's The Saturday Night Kid, starring Clara Bow, 1929-32, Breakthrough. In late 1929, she was spotted by James Hall, an actor filming Howard Huff's Hell's Angels. Hughes, reshooting most of the originally silent film with sound, needed an actress to replace Greta Nissen, who had a Norwegian accent that was considered to be undesirable for her character. Harlow made a test and got the part. Hughes signed Harlow to a 5-year, $100 per week contract on October 24, 1929. Hell's Angels premiered in Hollywood on May 27, 1930, at Grauman's Chinese Theater, becoming the highest-grossing film of 1930, besting even Greta Garbo's talkie debut in Anna Christie. The movie made Harlow an international star, though she was popular with audiences. Critics were less than enthusiastic. The New Yorker called her performance plain awful, though Variety magazine conceded, "It doesn't matter what degree of talent she possesses, nobody ever starved possessing what she's got." During the shooting, Harlow met MGM executive Paul Byrne. She was again an uncredited extra in the 1931 Charlie Chaplin film City Lights, though her appearance did not make the final cut. With no projects planned for Harlow, Hughes sent her to New York, Seattle, and Kansas City for Hell's Angels premieres. In 1931, loaned out by Huff's Caddo Company to other studios, she gained more attention when she appeared in The Secret Six, with Wallace Beery and Clark Gable, Iron Man, with Lou Ayres and Robert Armstrong, and The Public Enemy, with James Cagney. Though the successes of the films ranged from moderate to hit, Harlow's acting was mocked by critics. Concerned, Hughes sent her on a brief publicity tour which was not a success, as Harlow dreaded such personal appearances. Harlow was next cast in Platinum Blonde, 1931, with Loretta Young. The film, originally titled Gallagher, was renamed by Hughes to promote Harlow, capitalizing on her hair color, called platinum by Huff's publicists. Though Harlow denied her hair was dyed, the platinum blonde color was reportedly achieved by bleaching with a weekly application of ammonia, Clorox bleach, and Lux soap flakes. This process weakened and damaged Harlow's naturally ash blonde hair. Many female fans began dyeing their hair to match hers. Howard Huff's team organized a series of platinum blonde clubs across the nation, with a prize of $10,000 to any beautician who could match Harlow's shade. Harlow next filmed Three Wise Girls, 1932, with Mae Clarke and Walter Byron. Paul Byrne then arranged to borrow her for The Beast of the City, 1932, co-starring Walter Houston. After filming, Byrne booked a 10-week personal appearance tour on the East Coast. To the surprise of many, especially Harlow herself, she packed every theater in which she appeared, often appearing in a single venue for several nights. Despite critical disparagement and poor roles, Harlow's popularity and following was large and growing, and, in February 1932, the tour was extended by 6 weeks. According to Fay Wray, who played Ann Darrow in King Kong, 1933, Harlow was the original choice to play the screaming blonde heroine. Because MGM put Harlow under exclusive contract during the pre-production phase of the film, she became unavailable for Kong, and the part went to the brunette Ray, wearing a blonde wig. When Luciano crime family mobster Benjamin Bugsy Siegel went to Hollywood to expand casino operations, Harlow became the godmother of Siegel's eldest daughter Millicent, 1932-36, MGM stardom. Paul Byrne, by now romantically involved with Harlow, spoke to Louis B. Mayer about buying out her contract with Hughes and signing her to MGM, but Mayer declined. MGM's leading ladies were presented as elegant, while Harlow's floozy screen persona was abhorrent to Mayer. Byrne then began urging close friend Irving Thalberg, production head of MGM, to sign Harlow, noting her popularity and established image. After initial reluctance, Thalberg agreed and, on March 3, 1932, Harlow's 21st birthday, Byrne called her with the news that MGM had purchased her contract from Hughes for $30,000. Harlow officially joined the studio on April 20, 1932. At MGM, Harlow was given superior movie roles to show off her looks and nascent comedic talent. Though Harlow's screen persona changed dramatically during her career, one constant was her apparent sense of humor. In 1932, she starred in the comedy Red-Headed Woman, for which she received $1,250 a week. The film is often noted as being one of the few films in which Harlow did not appear with platinum blonde hair. She wore a red wig for the role. She next starred in Red Dust, her second film with Clark Gable. Harlow and Gable worked well together and co-starred in a total of 6 films. She was also paired multiple times with Spencer Tracy and William Powell. She was later paired with up-and-coming male co-stars such as Robert Taylor and Fran Catone in an effort to boost their careers. At this point, MGM began trying to distinguish Harlow's public persona from that of her screen characters, changing her childhood surname from Common Carpenter to Chic Carpentier, claiming that writer Edgar Allan Poe was one of her ancestors and publishing photographs of Harlow doing charity work to change her image from that of a tramp to an all-American girl. This transformation proved difficult. Once, Harlow was heard muttering, "My God, must I always wear a low-cut dress to be important?" During the making of Red Dust, Byrne, her husband of 2 months, was found shot dead at their home, creating a lasting scandal. Initially, Harlow was speculated to have killed Byrne, but Byrne's death was officially ruled as suicide. Louis B. Mayer feared negative publicity from the incident and intended to replace Harlow in the film, offering the role to Tallulah Bankhead. Bankhead was appalled by the offer and wrote in her autobiography, "To damn the radiant John for the misfortune of another would be one of the shabbiest acts of all time. I told Mr. Mayer as much." Harlow kept silent, survived the ordeal, and became more popular than ever. A 2009 biography of Byrne asserted that Byrne was, in fact, murdered by a former lover and the crime scene rearranged by MGM executives to make it appear Byrne had killed himself. After Byrne's death, Harlow began an indiscreet affair with boxer Max Baer who, though separated from his wife Dorothy Dunbar, was threatened with divorce proceedings, naming Harlow as a co-respondent for alienation of affection, a legal term for adultery. After Byrne's mysterious death, the studio did not want another scandal and diffused the situation by arranging a marriage between Harlow and cinematographer Harold Rawson. Rawson and Harlow were friends and Rawson went along with the plan. They quietly divorced 8 months later. By 1933, MGM realized the value of the Harlow-Gable team and paired them again in Hold Your Man, 1933, which was also a box office success. The same year, she played the adulterous wife of Wallace Beery in the all-star comedy drama Dinner at 8, and played a pressured Hollywood film star in the screwball comedy Bombshell with Lee Tracy. The film has often been cited as being based on Harlow's own life or that of 1920s it girl, Clara Bow. The following year, she was teamed with Lionel Barrymore and Fran Catone in The Girl from Missouri, 1934. The film was the studio's attempt at softening Harlow's image, but suffered with censorship problems, so much so that its original title, Born to be Kissed, had to be changed. Due to the financial success of Red Dust and Hold Your Man, MGM cast Harlow with Clark Gable in 2 more successful films, China Seas, 1935, with Wallace Beery and Rosalind Russell, and Wife vs. Secretary, 1936, with Myrna Loy and James Stewart. Stewart later spoke of a scene in a car with Harlow in Wife vs. Secretary, saying, "Clarence Brown, the director, wasn't too pleased by the way I did the smooching. He made us repeat the scene about half a dozen times. I botched it up on purpose. That John Harlow sure was a good kisser. I realized that until then I had never been really kissed." From 1933 onward, Harlow was consistently voted one of the strongest box office draws in the United States, often outranking her fellow female colleagues at MGM in audience popularity polls. Reckless, 1935, was her first movie musical. It co-starred her then-boyfriend William Powell and Fran Catone. Although her character sings in the movie, Harlow's voice for the performance was dubbed by skilled vocalist Virginia Verrill. The film offered yet another incident of arts meets life for Harlow, as her character in the movie suffers the horrors of her husband's suicide. By the mid-1930s, Harlow was one of the biggest stars in the United States, and it was hoped, MGM's next Greta Garbo. Still young, her star continued to rise while the popularity of other female stars at MGM, such as Garbo, Joan Crawford, Norma Shearer, and Louise Rayner, waned. waned. Harlow's movies continued to make huge profits at the box office even during the middle of the Depression. Some credit them with keeping MGM profitable at a time when other studios were falling into bankruptcy. After her third marriage ended in 1934, Harlow met William Powell, another MGM star, and quickly fell in love. The couple was reportedly engaged for 2 years, but differences kept them from formalizing their relationship. She wanted children, he did not. Harlow also said that Louis B. Mayer would never allow them to marry. Susie, 1936, in which she played the title role, gave her top billing over Franca Tone and Cary Grant. While critics noted that Harlow dominated the film, they added that her performance was imperfect, and the film was a reasonable box office success. She then starred in Riff Raff, 1936, with Spencer Tracy and Una Merkel, a financial disappointment, and the worldwide hit Libeled Lady, 1936, in which she was top billed over Powell, Myrna Loy, and Tracy. She then filmed W.S. Van Dyke's comedy Personal Property, 1937, co-starring Robert Taylor. It was Harlow's final fully completed motion picture appearance. Death. Jean suffered from scarlet fever at the age 15 in 1926. This may have contributed to her untimely death from kidney disease on June 7, 1937, at the age of 26. In January 1937, Harlow and Robert Taylor traveled to Washington, D.C., to take part in fundraising activities associated with President Franklin D. Roosevelt's birthday, for the organization later known as the March of Dimes. The trip was physically taxing for Harlow and she contracted influenza. She recovered in time to attend the Academy Awards ceremony with Powell. Production for Harlow's final film Saratoga, co-starring Clark Gable, was scheduled to begin filming in March 1937. However, production was delayed when she developed septicemia after a wisdom tooth extraction and had to be hospitalized. After she recovered, shooting began on April 22. On May 20, 1937, while shooting Saratoga, Harlow began to complain of illness. Her symptoms, fatigue, nausea, water weight and abdominal pain, did not seem very serious to her doctor, who believed she was suffering from cholecystitis and influenza. However, he was apparently unaware that Harlow had been ill during the previous year with a severe sunburn and influenza. Her friend and co-star Myrna Loy noticed Harlow's gray complexion, fatigue, and weight gain. On May 29, Harlow was shooting a scene in which the character she was playing had a fever. Harlow was clearly sicker than her character, and when she leaned against co-star Gable between scenes, said, "I feel terrible. Get me back to my dressing room." Harlow requested that the assistant director telephone William Powell, who left his own set to escort Harlow back home. On May 30, Powell checked on Harlow, and when he found her condition unimproved, recalled her mother from a holiday trip and summoned her doctor. Harlow's illnesses had delayed 3 previous films, Wife vs. Secretary, Susie, and Libeled Lady, so there was no great concern initially. On June 2, it was announced that Harlow was suffering from influenza. Dr. Ernest Fishbaugh, who had been called to Harlow's home to treat her, diagnosed her with an inflamed gallbladder. Harlow felt better on June 3 and co-workers expected her back on the set by Monday, June 7. Press reports were contradictory, with headlines like John Harlow seriously ill and Harlow past illness crisis. Clark Gable, who visited her during these days, later said that she was severely bloated and that he smelled urine on her breath when he kissed her, both signs of kidney failure. Dr. Leland Chapman, a colleague of Fishbaugh's called in to give a second opinion, recognized that she was not suffering from an inflamed gallbladder, but was in the end stages of kidney failure. On June 6, Harlow said that she could not see Powell properly and could not tell how many fingers he was holding up. That evening, Harlow was taken to Good Samaritan Hospital in Los Angeles, where she slipped into a coma. The next day at 11:37 a.m., Harlow died in the hospital at the age of 26. In the doctor's press releases, the cause of death was given as cerebral edema, a complication of kidney failure. Hospital records mention uremia. For years, rumors circulated about Harlow's death. Some claimed that her mother had refused to call a doctor because she was a Christian Scientist or that Harlow herself had declined hospital treatment or surgery. Also rumors related that Harlow had died because of alcoholism, a botched abortion, over-dieting, sunstroke, poisoning due to platinum hair dye, or various venereal diseases. However, medical bulletins, hospital records, and testimony of her relatives and friends prove it was kidney disease. From the onset of her illness, resting at home, Harlow had been attended by a doctor, 2 nurses visited her house and various equipment was brought from a nearby hospital. Yet, it seems also true that Harlow's mother had barred some visitors, such as the MGM doctor, who later stated that she did so because she was a Christian Scientist. It has been suggested that she still wanted to control her daughter, but no evidence supports the allegation that she refused medical care for Harlow. Harlow's kidney failure could not have been cured in the 1930s. The death rate from acute kidney failure has decreased to 25 only after the advent of antibiotics, dialysis, and kidney transplantation. Harlow's gray complexion, recurring illnesses, and severe sunburn were signs of the disease, as her kidneys had been slowly failing and toxins accumulated in her body, exposing her to other illnesses and causing symptoms including swelling, fatigue, and lack of appetite. Toxins also adversely affected her brain and central nervous system. Speculation has suggested that Harlow suffered a post-streptococcal glomerulonephritis, following scarlet fever when she was young, which may have caused high blood pressure and ultimately kidney failure. News of Harlow's death spread quickly. Spencer Tracy wrote in his diary, "John Harlow died today. Grand gal." One of the MGM writers later said, "The day baby died there wasn't one sound in the commissary for 3 hours." MGM closed on the day of her funeral on June 9. She was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale in the Great Mausoleum in a private room of multicolored marble which William Powell bought for $25,000. She was buried in the gown she wore in Libeled Lady, and in her hands, she held a white gardenia and a note that Powell had written, "Good night, my dearest darling." The simple inscription on Harlow's grave is "Our baby." Spaces in the same room were reserved for Harlow's mother and Powell. Harlow's mother was buried there in 1958, but Powell remarried in 1940 and after his death in 1984, was cremated. His ashes were buried with his son at Desert Memorial Park in Cathedral City, California. MGM planned to replace Harlow in Saratoga with either Jean Arthur or Virginia Bruce, but due to public objections, the film was finished using 3 doubles, one for close-ups, one for long shots and one for dubbing Harlow's lines, and rewriting some scenes without her. The film was released on July 23, 1937, less than 2 months after Harlow's death, and was a hit with audiences. It became MGM's second highest grossing picture of 1937. Since the film's release, viewers have tried to spot these stand-ins and signs of Harlow's illness. At the time of Harlow's death, MGM was planning for Harlow to star in a series of films as Maisie. She was replaced by Ann Sothern. Novel. Harlow wrote a novel entitled Today is Tonight. In Arthur Landau's introduction to the 1965 paperback edition, Harlow stated her intention to write the book around 1933-34 but it was not published during her lifetime. After her death, Landau writes, her mother sold the film rights to MGM, though no film was made. The publication rights were passed from Harlow's mother to a family friend and the book was finally published in 1965. Film Portrayals. In 1965, 2 films about John Harlow were released, both called Harlow. The first film was released by Magna in May 1965 and stars Carol Lynley. The second was released in June 1965 by Paramount Pictures and stars Carol Baker. Both were poorly received and did not perform well at the box office. In 1978, Lindsay Bloom portrayed her in Hughes and Harlow, Angels in Hell. In 2004, Gwen Stefani briefly appeared as Harlow in Martin Scorsese's Howard Hughes biopic The Aviator. In August 1993, Sharon Stone hosted a documentary about Harlow entitled Harlow, the Blonde Bombshell, which aired on Turner Classic Movies. Filmography.